8 million American adults were food insecure. Locally, the overall food insecurity rate was 13.2%, and the food insecurity rate for children was 17.5%. These numbers had been slowly going down. The food insecurity was improving. In 2019, the Food Finders leadership team set a performance goal for 2020. We created what we thought was a stretch goal of distributing 9.5 million pounds of food in 2020. We plan to do this through what we labeled our Solving Hunger Today programs. This included our pantry on Greenbush Street in Lafayette, our agency partner program, that's our food pantries, the backpack program serving 2,500 children in our service area, and the mobile pantry program serving 34,000 households across 16 counties. We also set goals for our Ending Hunger Tomorrow programs, which include classes on budgeting and healthy eating, SNAP outreach, and resource coordination, connecting clients with community resources such as training programs and job opportunities, healthcare, and housing. When Purdue and local school corporations suspended in-person classes on March 13th, everything changed. We closed our walk-in pantry and suspended our classes and resource coordination programs. We decided to focus on our number one priority, getting food to those who needed it, while keeping our clients, volunteers, and staff as healthy as possible. Layoffs were being announced all over Tippecanoe County, and employees were having their hours cut. Children were at home instead of in school and needed to be fed 3 meals a day. It was inspiring to see the way that this community came together. The United Way organized a lunch program for school children to keep children fed until the school corporations could gear up to distribute lunches for them. Everyone cooperated to make it possible for food finders to quickly transition to a drive-through pantry at Linwood School. The school corporation agreed to allow us to use the school grounds and parking lot, and the city provided barricades and cones to facilitate the traffic flow. We closed our pantry on Greenbush on Saturday, March 14th, and opened the drive-through pantry on Tuesday, March 17th, in the rain. In fact, I think it rained every single time we had the drive-through pantry for at least the first month. Our mobile pantries, held in each of our other counties, adopted a drive-through model as well. The backpacks were distributed by partner organizations or the schools, even when the school buildings weren't open. Food finders added extra mobile pantries in Tippecanoe and other counties to ensure that everyone had enough to eat during the shutdown. One of our staff members, Catherine McLeod, organized a home delivery program for elderly people who were not able to leave their homes, using volunteers to deliver the food boxes. We added an extra drive-through pantry at the Tippecanoe Mall that served people on the south side. All of these changes put a lot of pressure on our staff at a time when stress levels were already high. It seemed like everything was urgent. We converted our warehouse into a box packing facility for half of each day. Many of our team took on new jobs to ensure that we accomplished all the new work. 30 National Guard troops joined our team in early April. We borrowed additional freezer space so we could say yes to large quantities of frozen meat. We found a local company to sell boxes to us, and they loaned us a machine that taped them, saving lots of time. The National Guard made it possible for food finders to keep up with the demand for food boxes. They worked packing and distributing boxes, bagging produce, sorting food donations, and conducting extra mobile pantries from April 1st to October 1st, replacing the volunteers that we normally depended on. Our team members took turns directing traffic, packing boxes, and loading cars to serve the nearly 30,000 households that used our drive-through pantry in Lafayette. 1/3 of the people using the drive-through pantry had never used a food pantry before. The state of Indiana declared a disaster, which eliminated most of the paperwork associated with handing out food and enabled us to get through the line of 600 cars per day a lot faster. At the end of our fiscal year, we had far surpassed that 9.5 million pound goal, distributing instead 13.5 million pounds of food. Our mobile pantry conducted 506 food distributions, serving almost 50,000 households in 16 counties. This was an increase from 400 food distributions the previous year, serving 34,000 households in 2019. I could not be more proud of the Food Finders team for their hard work and dedication to this important work. Looking back, I realized that in many ways our team was lucky. Everybody had the desire to do something to help, but it was hard to know what you could do. We were in a unique position, and from the very beginning, we were able to help. We were doing critical work to help with the pandemic. We could not have done all that we did without an amazing influx of donations received from individuals, corporations, organizations, churches, municipalities, and Feeding America. Having the National Guard was like having 30 extra employees and made a lot of things possible. We received many generous donations, but spent it as quickly as we got it on food, PPE, sanitizing our buildings, renting extra trucks, and hiring temporary employees. The single biggest cost, as always, was food. One big problem that the food bank faced during this time was food shortages. Remember the toilet paper crisis? Food Finders was impacted by the same supply chain shortages faced by grocery stores. We placed orders for food in April and got notices that the food would be delivered in September. Fortunately, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and the CARES Act did two things that helped us enormously. They increased food purchases made by the USDA for food banks and increased the amount of money for households getting SNAP benefits. The advantage of the increase in SNAP was that families were able to purchase more of their own food and lessen our supply chain problems. Even when we're not facing a pandemic, food banks depend on food from the Emergency Food Assistance Program, known as TFAP. This is a USDA program. Prior to COVID, our food bank was already benefiting from extra TFAP food that was purchased to offset the impact of the trade disagreements with China. Food raised for Chinese markets, not purchased by China, was converted into large quantities of high-quality food called trade mitigation food. We were fortunate that we had this food on hand to get us through until the additional purchases made possible by the CARES Act and the Families First Coronavirus Act began to come to the food banks. The Corona Food Box program made food available in the summer months. This food was intended for restaurants and institutions like camps and hotels. It was purchased by the government and put into boxes for food pantry clients. We loved the fact that this food was already boxed. Everyone involved agrees that this program was an administrative nightmare. It was canceled and restarted 3 times. But the food was incredible for both the quantity and quality. Unfortunately, our food bank was left out of the last round of these boxes because it was turned over to private distributors who got to make the decision about who got the boxes. And we were just east of the line our assigned distributor drew on the map. Nevertheless, for most of the summer months, these boxes made it possible for food finders to rent a truck and send National Guard members out to hold additional mobile pantries in all of our counties, for a total of 3 mobile pantries per month in each of our 16 counties. At the end of the summer, everything changed again, which brings us to where we are today. When school started, we lost our drive-through pantry location. About the same time, we learned that most of the National Guard would be moved to assist in nursing homes instead of food banks. We retained just 4 of the 30 Guard members who had been with us since April. The number of households coming to us for food had not decreased. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but without the Guard, we were desperate to find a way to distribute food safely without packing boxes or loading food into cars. One of our staff members, Pierre Kreitz, suggested we look into the building in Market Square that had been a Save-A-Lot grocery store. This turned out to be the perfect solution. Instead of 12,000 square feet of pantry space, we could spread our operations over 19,000 square feet, ample room for social distancing. We even had the space to complete volunteer projects, including social distancing. The freezers and coolers had been left in the space and were all in working order. With a grant from Feeding America, we were able to secure a 3-year lease for the building. After some heroic cleaning, organizing, and moving led by Jack Warner and our warehouse team, and lots of insurance, security, and lease work done by Tawny Howe, our CFO, we opened our new building less than 2 months after we first saw it. We named it the Food Finders Fresh Market, and it opened on October 1st. We are seeing between 300 and 400 households per day. The store is open 5 days each week, including Saturday. Keeping the shelf stocked with food is challenging and expensive. We are still distributing meat from the trade mitigation food and from the CARES Act food purchases made for the TFAP program. Most of the canned goods and some of the produce is also from the TFAP food purchases. We're using private donations to purchase milk and eggs. Our milk bill is $4,000 per week. This gives you some insight into why free food is so important to us. Our clients are happy with the increased space and the selection of healthy food. Our staff loves the setup and the space. The challenge is keeping the shelves stocked after December 31st, which brings me to what is ahead. We know that food insecurity and unemployment go hand in hand. As people lose their jobs or have hours cut, food pantries see more households in need of food. The need for food assistance continues to rise in our community. A recent Feeding America report estimates that food insecurity in our service area will rise from 13 to 18% as a result of the damage to the economy from the pandemic. The food insecurity among children is predicted to rise from 17 to a heartbreaking 26% in the 16 counties that we're responsible for. That means that more than a quarter of the children in our area will live in households that do not have enough food. So far, we've managed to leverage generous local donations, national grants, donated food from manufacturers, and a large amount of food from the USDA to meet the increased demand for the last 10 months. Even though our community has been amazingly generous, without the USDA food, we simply would not have been able to feed everyone that needed help. Food Finders needs a dependable food supply to ensure that we can continually provide for families, children, and individuals who face hunger in our community. We work hard to raise money for the purchase of food, but we can't keep up with the demand during times of high unemployment and increased need. Unless new legislation is passed, the amount of food being distributed through the TFAP program will be cut in half in January of 2021. All of the extra food purchases made possible by coronavirus legislation end December 31st, and yet the pandemic will not end for another 6 to 12 months, and the economy may take years to recover. Without more USDA food purchases and increased SNAP benefits, Food Finders will face an impossible job. We will not be able to provide adequate nutritious food to a growing number of families facing hunger in our community. One of the best ways you can help feed your neighbors is to contact your senators and representatives and then tell them to support increases to federal nutrition programs like SNAP and TFAP. The very last thing any family or individual needs when they're dealing with a deadly virus is to wonder if they'll have enough food to take care of themselves and their families. If you want to help our food bank provide for everyone who is in need, please do these 3 things. Continue to donate generously, contact your senators and congressmen and tell them to support the TFAP and SNAP programs, and volunteer if you're able. That's all I have for now. Thank you. Are there any questions? No questions at all? Are you all asleep?
Katy?
Yes.
Can you remind me how many households you said we served with the mobile distributions this year?
Let's see, it was 40. Let me get back to my number. And we had planned to serve 34,000, and instead it was close to 50,000 households.
Okay, thank you.
And Dennis is asking how we can get a transcript of Katy's comments. We are recording this, so we will send this out via email, the email that you registered for the town hall with. We'll go ahead and send that out. And then Andrew Brightman.
I'm also happy to email it to Dennis or anyone else that wants it.
And then Andrew Brightman, can you give us a draft message that we might send to Congress on behalf of Food Finders?
Yes, I can. And again, I think the best way to do that would be to send it out via email. So I'll make a note to send that to Andrew. And if anyone else wants that, just put it in the chat, and we'll send with your email address, and we'll send you a draft letter.
And let's see. Peter says NBC featured food drives today. Are they any help?
So very large food drives help, and I think that might have been what was going on NBC today. But overall, 2% of the food that we distribute comes from food drives. And that in a normal year includes the letter carrier food drive, which provides something like 70,000 pounds of food. So it's just that we really can't keep up with the demand anymore with food from food drives. And it's also an expensive way for us to get food. There's a lot of sorting and moving food around, and we end up throwing away some food from food drives that's not safe to eat anymore. And so it really isn't efficient at all.
Eileen asked, do we need to contact state senators and representatives as well?
This legislation is federal legislation. So there are always times when it's helpful to contact the state, but this time it's your representatives and senators at the federal level.
And Kira, I don't know if you can unmute yourself. This might be a question for you. How have the senior only times at the Fresh Market been going?
Hi, I can unmute. We've actually just had one this month. It started the first week of December, and our second date is tomorrow. So the first one went well. We know that we have some more marketing to do. At this point, we have only marketed to our current clients inside of the Fresh Market. So in the future, in January, we'll start reaching out to agency partners that work specifically with seniors and letting them know about what we're offering and how to make that, work best for everybody. We also are adding additional components of this grant that will start in February. With the number of staff that we've had out due to various quarantining things and stuff like that, we've had to push back some of the starts of our programs for next year, but we're working on it. And the clients that came the first Wednesday in December were really grateful, and they made a lot of comments about how nice it was that we were taking efforts to make them more safe. The grant really wasn't written in response to COVID for that. It was just more about letting seniors have a time that's easier for them to access the food pantry without having to wait in lines and things like that. So it's been nice to hear the feedback though.
Andrew Brightman, what is the best way and times for new volunteers to get involved?
So I can speak to that too. We are focusing our volunteer efforts right now on our Fresh Market. We have not seen our volunteer numbers come back to what they were pre-COVID. And, we understand those reasonings. We have a video up on our website and on our volunteer page showing folks the different COVID measures and safety protocols that we put in place at the Fresh Market. So our number one priority is filling our Fresh Market shifts. And I'm going to get these times a little bit wrong. They're on our website at food-finders.org if you go to volunteer, but on our calendar, I believe it's 12:45 to 3:45, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is a shift, and then 3:45, I think, to 6:30. I might have those a little bit wrong. We have two shifts on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a little bit shorter shifts on Friday, and then also Saturday hours as well. We are also adding kind of smaller volunteer projects at the FREC, at our Food Resource and Education Center. We are updating the downstairs there and making that all a volunteer area since the pantry has moved. And we have more like packaging projects and kind of behind the scenes projects happening there. We also have a senior only shift. I believe it's on Monday mornings, and it's for folks that may be considered a little bit more high risk, that don't want to be in the public or around younger people, college kids, things like that. And so this is a great time for them to come and volunteer, and we've had a lot of great response to that.
And then Eileen asked, what is the second acronym that you mentioned? I think she's referring to TFAP here.
TFAP, it's the Emergency Food Assistance Program. It's a part of the Farm Bill, and originally it was to buy food that was surplus to keep farm prices higher and support farmers. but it's evolved into much more than that. And now purchases are made for food that people need. It's usually very nutritious food.
All right, and there are quite a few people that are requesting a draft letter to send to
Great.
members of Congress. So we will definitely get that out. I've noted all of those names, and it doesn't look like there are any other questions. I don't think so. So Katie, any final words to everyone?
That I used is SNAP, and that's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which we used to call food stamps. And over the years, the amount for that has gone down, and lots of restrictions have been placed on it. Like you can only get SNAP 3 months out of 3 years unless you're in school or working. But a lot of those restrictions because of COVID have been lifted, and the amount that a household gets has been raised just because of these COVID relief bills. So that's making it possible for people to purchase a lot more of their own food, which helps us in the food bank. So that's all I have to say. I really will appreciate your help if you're able to contact your legislators and make sure they know that here in Indiana, we really need the TFAP food and the SNAP benefits to be increased. It will help us a lot. Thank you for tuning in today.
All right, thank you everyone. Have a happy holiday.